Okay, welcome back, everyone. So, we're going to go into the final part of the day. We're going to talk about the challenges and opportunities in scaling up solutions to bridge the gender labor gap. To start us off, we have Professor Susan Athey, Economics of Technology professor here at Stanford. Susan is also the first woman to ever win the John Bates Clark Medal for her groundbreaking work in economics. She'll be sharing her work on scalable programs that help women transition into the tech workforce. Welcome, Susan.
So thank you so much for having me here. And I have to say, I think I've never felt like so much support and positive vibes in one room. So kudos to the organizers for bringing together so many amazing people trying to change the world. And it's always good when times are rough in the world to be around other people who are really thinking of their life's mission to make the world better. So today I want to talk about work I've been doing about helping workers transition. And those of you who know me from my academic life, I haven't been primarily focused on sort of labor economics issues, but one of the ways I came here is that I have been very focused on technology. And so for like the last 15 years, I've had to, once a month or so, speak publicly about what's the impact of, first it's digitization and machine learning, and now it's AI on the workforce. And one of the things that I started realizing is that we could talk about it, but maybe we should do something about it. And technology isn't just a disruptive force, it's also part of the solution. So I have a lab at Stanford where we've been trying to partner with social sector organizations or organizations that for-profit organizations, but where we're working with them on social impact projects. So just to start, like if I'm thinking about trying to help workers get skills using digital technology, and again, I'm focusing on that partly from just the subject expertise and also because it's scalable. What is the theory of how that's going to work? And so, I can get workers skills like through things like Coursera or digitally created programs like one I'm going to talk about that we created. But before I go out and try to get a funder to fund it or spend a lot of resources on it, I need to have some idea that if I get people non-standard credentials, that there's some prospect that that's actually going to help them. And there's like a bit of a chicken and egg problem because people, if they don't know what a credential means, they won't evaluate it. But who wants to get a credential if nobody knows what it means? So I wanted to spend time thinking about that like final part of the process between like communicating your skills and getting jobs, as laying the groundwork for if you establish that, which we did get positive results. I think that then justifies spending a lot more resources actually getting people the training to start with. So, if you get skills, especially if you're going into tech, a lot of people get recruited through places like LinkedIn, or they're showing resumes, sending in resumes. First of all, the resume has to actually credibly signal the skill, and then you also need to be able to demonstrate those skills in an interview in order to get a job. So the first project I want to talk about is one where we created from scratch a program together with a small Polish organization to try to help women build portfolios that would demonstrate their skills relevant for IT jobs. And so we were basically trying to solve the chicken and egg problem here by not focusing on just like a credential of a certain title, but really going directly to having a work product that would be relevant to the job they were trying to get. And this would, in principle, they are acquiring skills through the program, but most of it is about demonstrating skills rather than just the acquisition. So we started working with this, and I had worked with an amazing collaborator, Emil Palakot, who's from Poland, and he had a lot of the connections there. And so he found this organization that just had like 4 or 5 people when we started working with them. And they had created a mentoring program that helped mentor women who had advanced degrees, so we're not working with people here without degrees. They had aptitude, but they didn't have any skills in the IT industry. And so the question we asked was, can we create something that's more scalable than their mentoring program? And those of you in the room who I think a lot of people here do a lot of mentoring, you know that in some sense your bandwidth is somewhat limited. So how can we help more people? And so they were running this mentoring program what they were taking was people with skills but no tech job and matching them to mentors who were mid-career women in tech. And the way the program worked was there were one-to-one meetings for 3 months. They would do different cohorts. You would have to apply. Then they would have like a lookbook of mentees, maybe 1,000 or so, and the mentors, maybe 200, would pick mentees from the lookbook. And so they could do a couple hundred people a year that way. We created from scratch a new program and implemented it in collaboration with them. The new program, we called it Challenges, and the way we came up with the idea is that Emil and some of the folks from Dare IT went and interviewed the companies in Poland who were doing the outsourcing and asked them, like, what would it take for you to take a chance on these women? So what they said was they liked this idea of a portfolio. It was really kind of workshopped together with them. And so in the Challenges program, over the course of several weeks, you would submit 6 assignments, which in sequence add up to a portfolio item. And so one of the things here, I think, is it's not just that you create the portfolio, it's also, the portfolio is really designed and curated to demonstrate what the employers want, and that also motivates the women in the program because they know they're not wasting their time with this project. So we ran 2 randomized experiments in parallel, separate experiments. One was for mentoring. There we had the issue that the mentors would pick the mentees, and we wanted to respect that. So the way we did that is we had, instead of each mentor picking 1 mentee, each mentor picked 2 mentees, and then we randomized which one of them actually got mentored. And the other one was like the control group. So we could compare the selected mentors to the non-selected mentors. In the Challenges experiment, we admitted people, we took all the applicants, we took all the people that qualified, and then we randomized admission to the program. In both cases, we tracked outcomes using their LinkedIn profiles. They had to give their LinkedIn profiles in their application, and so that allowed us to not worry about like a 20 or 30% survey response rate, which would be normally like the best you could hope for if we were following up with surveys. So it gave us more complete data. We didn't have to partner with the government. We could just go to LinkedIn. And so what we found, and you can see these pictures that kind of really summarize the data from the result. We see first for the Challenges program in the red, the Challenges control group and the Challenges treatment group, and what's being plotted is the probability of getting a job in technology. And we see at the beginning there's no treatment effect because they're still in the program, and then the challenges kind of break away. In terms of the absolute magnitude of the change, the difference between mentoring treated and mentoring control is about the same size as Challenges treated and Challenges control, but from a percentage perspective, the Challenges people, because they weren't screened by mentors, they weren't selected, they're worse on average, and so it's doubling their chance of getting a job. We also see the mentors actually can figure out who's likely to get a job because the mentors are choosing people who are already much more likely than average to get a job. And so we do analysis in the paper to show that if they picked differently, they might have picked people who got more of a boost. They're not necessarily picking the people with the highest boost. They are picking people with a boost, but there were other people they could have had an even bigger boost, but maybe a lower level. Of course, the preferences of the mentors come into play because they might want to mentor people who will get a job. So we don't want to exclude that. And then a second project I'll just mention briefly, here we partnered with Coursera. And we took people, not just women in this case, we took people from developing countries and people without a college degree. And we ran an experiment on about 800,000 people. And so in this experiment, we were again trying to understand the impact of showing their credentials. And so in particular, Coursera created something where that if you clicked on the credential on the LinkedIn profile, it would take you back to Coursera and you would see the individual named authenticated certificate. And that was embedded in your LinkedIn profile. And what we did is we created a little software package that would automatically do the posting in 2 clicks. So this is kind of really focusing on the signaling of the skills. We randomized only people who have already gotten the credential. So everybody, our treatment and control group, has the credential. The only thing that the treatment is doing is it's helping people show the employer the credential on their LinkedIn profile. So, and again, we're randomizing people after they got the certificate. And then we monitor them on LinkedIn to see how they get a job. So this picture shows the treatment effects. This is the intent to treat. Now, what we find is that a lot of people, even we nudge people, we make it easy for them to post, but the compliance rate is relatively low. So a lot of the people who we offer the chance to post don't take it up. So that means that the overall treatment effect comparing people who were offered to the people who weren't offered is small because a lot of people just didn't take us up on the offer. In the paper, we show that there are much bigger effects when you focus on the people who took it up. But we do get a small but significant treatment effect on getting a job. We then kind of break things out. We first look at people who get a new job in scope. A smaller number of people get a new job in scope, and the baseline levels are in the solid. The treatment effects are the shaded area. And so, for example, it's an 11% improvement over baseline of getting a new job in scope as a result of getting access to this feature that makes it easy for you to post. And then finally, we use machine learning to divide people based on their pre-treatment characteristics into what we assess as being high employability, medium employability, and low employability. And we find that most of the treatment effects are coming from the people who looked like they had low employability. And so my interpretation is that these people, if you just looked at their LinkedIn profile, you couldn't really see that they were a good candidate for a job in tech, and therefore the recruiters might have also thought that. But once you get the credential on the profile, it's really making a big difference to whether they get the interviews and thus whether they get the jobs. So I'll stop there, just concluding that I view this as like preliminary work, and it's really kind of laying the groundwork or motivating bigger, more scalable investments in non-standard credentials. Thank you.